Welcome to the live show. You are one-on-one with Wes the Sports Guy here on YouTube and also at westhesportsguy.com. Use that hashtag one-on-one-Wes. I am on Twitter following all the happenings using that hashtag and also looking at the NFL scores. Going to talk about that here before I end the broadcast. But main point of the live show, as you can see with the hat and the shirt and the A logo right behind me, is the Major League Baseball winter meetings, the recap of what happened this last week. And that started last Sunday, ended a couple days ago on Thursday. Had a bunch of big sightings. The big three have finally signed. And it seems like it took a while, but it really didn't. It actually was very, very quick. And for the most part, the the big story was who was going to get the bigger contract. Was it going to be Garrett Cole? Was it going to be Steven Strasburg? Was it going to be Anthony Rendon? It ended up being Garrett Cole. It was a very, very surprising to see that he got 9 years from the New York Yankees. I didn't expect the New York Yankees to give him 9 years. Hello on the chat there here on YouTube. Make sure you use the hashtag one-on-one-Wes. Bottom line, the Garrett Cole signing was a bit shocking in terms of the years, the money, obviously, but then again, it really isn't because it's New York Yankees. If you're a Yankee fan, you got to be happy. You got your ace. You got your guy that is going to be the staple of that rotation going forward. It's going to be a very, very interesting time for the Yankees and for their fandom also, because you have to look at it long term. Do you want to keep Aaron Judge? Do you want to pay him the contract he's most likely going to command if he continues to play the way he is? Gleyber Torres had a great season last year. You're going to have to pay him eventually. Gary Sanchez, your catcher. There's a lot of other names out there, and I alluded to it last episode here on the YouTube channel. By the way, if you're not subscribed, make sure you do. Leave a like, leave a comment, all that good stuff here on YouTube. And, of course, use the hashtag one-on-one-Wes. But going back to the Yankees and Garrett Cole, they definitely seem like the winners here because they got the premier starting pitcher out there. They got the person that will solidify the rotation, be the guy going out there every fifth day. In the postseason, it'll be every third day, fourth day, something like that. But he's going to be the guy now for the Yankees. It's an amazing time in baseball to see a player of that magnitude get that kind of a contract for the position he plays, pitcher. It's an amazing time to be a baseball fan. Going into the other signing that happened before Garrett Cole, this was on Monday, I believe. The first big signing was Steven Strasburg. He came back to the Washington Nationals. He signed a 7-year, $245 million contract with the Washington Nationals to go back to the team that drafted him, number 1 overall back in the day. That did not shock anybody. That was a signing that everybody expected for the most part. I kind of expected it. I didn't think the dollars were going to be there in that amount, but it happened, and it makes perfect sense. The Washington Nationals and Steven Strasburg. Strasburg's got a kind of a loyalty factor, and that's not a knock against him. But it's a good thing to see that kind of a loyalty in a player, especially in baseball. It's very circumventive with players changing hands so many times, including trades and all that other stuff. But Steven Strasburg stays. He's going to be a National essentially for the rest of his career. I would never see or imagine the Washington Nationals trading away a guy like Strasburg, but that could be a possibility down the road. Who knows? But again, with that contract, that's highly unlikely. But he stays with the Nationals. That was the first thing on Monday. Tuesday was the big news of Garrett Cole signing with the Yankees and that massive contract. He does have an opt-out after 5 years. Just a little FYI there to drop it in. If the Yankees, or more in this case, if Garrett Cole does not want to stay with New York for the duration of that contract, he can opt out after 5 years. But it was pointed out that if he did opt out, he would leave $145 million off the table. I don't see him doing that. I don't see any player ever doing that. That's not going to happen. And then the other signing, as you can tell with the attire, the Anaheim, used to be Anaheim Angels. I want to call them Anaheim. They are the Los Angeles Angels. They signed Anthony Rendon after they missed out on both Steven Strasburg and Garrett Cole the previous 2 days of the winter meetings. Now, going into this transaction, not a lot of people saw it happening. And everybody wants to say that was the surprise of the week. Not really. I wouldn't even say so. And the reason why I wouldn't say that's a surprise of the week is the Angels had to make a move. They had to make a splash, you could say, not just at the meetings, which is where all these general managers get together, the owners and so forth, players and their agents and all that kind of stuff. That's a big part of what this week was. But in actuality, the Angels needed to make a splash this entire offseason. At some point, they needed to get somebody, a big fish. They need to get, pitching is the biggest priority, obviously. They need to get a catcher still, but they got another bat. And solidifies a position that's been kind of a hindrance for them for a better part of a decade plus. They haven't had a consistent third base, and not just as a defensive player, third baseman. They've had good defensive players playing third base before, but as a consistent offensive threat like you do now with Anthony Rendon, formerly of the Washington Nationals, winning a World Series last year with them. That was with Troy Glaus back when the Angels won their World Series in 2002. But with Anthony Rendon in there now, everybody's just gushing over the lineup now with Mike Trout heading in front of an RBI machine and Anthony Rendon. He had clutch hit after clutch hit last year in the postseason for them, and especially in the World Series. You could have made a case for him being the World Series MVP, but we all know the way that played out, that Steven Strasburg was definitely the clear-cut World Series MVP last year. But this Angels team, I'm not going to say it's complete. It's far from complete. They still need to get the pitching. They did trade for Dylan Bundy before the winter meetings happened from the Baltimore Orioles. They gave away 4 minor league players, none of real big note. 2 of them, they said, were drafted this last year in their draft. But that's not a splashy acquisition you would expect from a team like the Angels, especially with owner Artie Moreno already quoted as saying that the payroll is going to go up. He said that when he hired the new manager, Joe Maddon, formerly of the Chicago Cubs, winning a World Series not too long ago. If you remember, Cub fan, Joe Maddon was your manager. Now he's back with the Angels, where he belongs. Just nothing really to be too sad about there, though. I mean, Chicago, you got a World Series out of it. Joe Maddon, hell of a manager, very, very knowledgeable, both ends of the spectrum when it comes to baseball. You got the analytics, you got the the old school ways of doing things in baseball, I should say. Make sure you leave a comment on this video during the live chat. Give you a little wave as well, but make sure you use the hashtag #101West. Subscribe, hit that bell. Make sure you get notified after you do that for all the latest videos that are posted every week. Me doing this live show essentially is just to kind of test the waters a little bit, see how this goes. And if you can see behind me, this is the green screen. All my videos really have been done on the green screen, mostly. I know those earlier ones weren't done on a green screen, but now we've got one. A lot of other things I'd like to do in the future. Kind of touch on that real quick here with, I know we got football coming up in less than an hour, so I'll be stopping before that so you can get to your games. And I'll go over what you should and shouldn't watch today here. But diving into this real quick with the way live stream is and YouTube channels and all that kind of stuff real quick, I just want to digress a little bit from the sports part of this right now. Going into this live show, I did start a little bit late, but again, if you're late to the party, no worries. I was late too, no big deal. But you could also watch this later here on YouTube. I'll have the whole episode for you live, or not live, but I'll have it as a recap for you later. But as I was saying, going into this live show that I was planning on doing either last night or today, go Google and require you to use Chrome. I'm not a big Chrome fan. Didn't want to use it, but thus I'm using Chrome right now to go live. I was trying to use a different browser. It didn't like it. Doesn't like it. No go on that. So it is what it is. You can't really go away from that. As I can see the glare coming off that light there, that kind of helps a little bit. And as you can see, I'm wearing glasses. Normally I don't wear glasses during or doing my shows on a normal basis, but these are what I use to see, especially on a computer screen. And the one that I just got now is a lot wider. Not smaller print, but things get a little bit dicey sometimes, so that's why I'm wearing glasses. That's why if you're not used to it, yep, still me. I'm here. But going into this with YouTube, they are starting to change some things that are just a little concerning. Not just to myself, but many, many other YouTube creators, and you could call them content providers, the ones that really built YouTube into what it is nowadays. This is a bit troubling for a lot of different reasons, and it's being called the YouTube purge. And I don't know if that's really the best way to describe it, but it really is the easiest to describe it. You have a lot of providers, content creators, YouTube channels, so on and so forth. Use many different acronyms as much as you like. They're starting to get not just flagged with their videos being taken down for whatever reason when it comes to the new policies of harassment. And if you can make heads or tails of that policy, by all means, go for it. As I drink my cup of coffee. But again, they can make that policy 100 times out of 100. If you can make heads or tails of it, again, let me know, because I can't. I don't know what it is their end game is with it. Yeah, you wanna be nice. You want to be thoughtful of other people's feelings, of course. But when it comes to the context of everything, when it comes to if it's a comedy show, it's clearly put as a comedy show, and somebody's making fun of somebody, not in a malicious way, not in a threatening manner, but it's comedy. It's the way it's been for decades upon decades. We used to never really get offended about kind of minuscule little things, stuff that really didn't affect us, just because somebody's being made fun of for their quirks and things of that nature. We all understand it's in jest. Context matters. And I feel that YouTube is going down a path that they can't really recover from. They are starting something that I think can lead to its own destruction, and also have some unintended consequences and ramifications that can affect many, many people, as with the Vox apocalypse this past summer. Not going to explain a whole lot of that, but essentially it was a YouTube channel in Steven Crowder against Vox. And if you don't know what Vox is backed up by over I think it was $100 or $200 million investment from NBC Universal fairly recently, in the last year or two, I think. So a large media conglomerate, and with one person that used to work there going after Steven Crowder, that started the whole Vox apocalypse on YouTube, where channels were getting flagged for inappropriate content. They were being demonetized left and right because of the feud between a person at Vox and Steven Crowder. If you don't know who Steven Crowder is, this is what I said earlier. He is a comedian. That's what he does. That's his shtick. I'm not saying that in those videos you can watch them for yourself, and I have. So I've come to that conclusion. In the context of it, he was not making fun of a person for their choices in life, or their looks, or their personality, whatever the case may be. He was taking something that person was admitting to themselves on their own Twitter profile, and spun it around and was making fun. It's jest. It's comedy. Are you really going to get quote unquote butthurt about a comedian? But then again, that's how some choose to live their lives. That's for you. That's not me. I choose to laugh as much as possible. Laughter is very contagious. But the whole long and short of what I'm getting to here is that with YouTube, I'm still going to be here, but I will be expanding after the new year. I will try other avenues to post the same videos that you will see here on this channel on YouTube. I will keep you in the loop if you want to come back and continue to check this out on the YouTube channel, which, by the way, if you are, I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. Can't say that enough. But I'll be exploring other avenues as well to post videos and do some live content as well on those other platforms, you could say, not avenues, but platforms, social media platforms, whatever they are called, whatever they would like to be called, either way. But that's going to be the plan for the future here, is to check out other options, see what else is out there, and still be here on YouTube. But I can see the writing on the wall. It's coming. It's gonna not be a very friendly atmosphere to build one's own unique individual content going forward. It just seems more and more like YouTube is catering, as you can see on the trending tab, any given day of any month of the year, no matter what. The trending tab is always catered to the big media. You've always got the ABCs, the CBSs, NBCs, you got the Foxes, all that stuff. And another thing with live is that you get to see me almost choking my words there, but again, with our cup of coffee. Interesting times, nonetheless. So that'll be the plan after the new year. I will be doing one more show here on this channel just before we get to Christmas and to New Year's, but I'll be back after New Year's. I don't know exactly the date, but it'll be maybe a week or two after that gets going, maybe closer to the Super Bowl, kind of like what I did last year. I came back the week of the Super Bowl, so I might do that again. We'll see. We'll see how things play out. But yeah, the future is looking good on this side of things. But when it comes to YouTube, the future is just not good at all. I'm sorry, but it's kind of bleak at sometimes. It's not what it used to be. It's not the way I always thought of YouTube. I always thought of YouTube as just a huge video library to see old clips of movies, or even, when YouTube first started, before Google bought it. This is also tying into the insanity of what Google is. They just want to swallow everything up, and it ends up turning to crap. And that's just how things go. So a lot of times with the big companies, they buy things and it ends up turning to crap. More often than not with Google, though. I found that out pretty fast with a lot of things a long time ago. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting times to see how YouTube rides this ship out. Because if they want to get to a point where they just end up getting rid of comments altogether, I mean, fine, get rid of the comment tabs for all these channels. Fine, do it. Who cares? who really wants to read comments on videos that you're watching on a daily basis from people that you want to see videos from? Do you really want to read the comments too? Sure, if you want to make a comment, by all means, go for it. But who's focused on that? That's one part of it I don't get. But I mean, if that's the ultimate end game, fine, get rid of the comments. No more comments. Fine, get rid of it. The NFL season is winding down, week 15. Looking at the schedule today, I don't see a lot of great games. We'll put this one down as the maybe pile. Patriots at Bengals, if you want to watch that game, just to see if the Patriots are caught cheating again. Again, just a joke. But no, that game's not worth watching at all because it's a 1-win Bengals team hosting the Patriots. But if you don't know the story, the Patriots supposedly got caught at last week's game between the Bengals and Browns, pointing a camera towards the Bengals sidelines. Oh boy. You can insert all the jokes you want. And all I have to say is, do you really need to be scouting the Cincinnati Bengals at this point of the season? Do you really need to? You only got one win. What else is there to scout? The Bears are at Green Bay to play the Packers. I did see a blip. I think it was either Facebook or Instagram, one of those two, of the now 200th meeting between these two franchises. 200 times they've met now in NFL history. Bears are 7-6, Packers are 10-3. It should be a good game, but normally how I see how games line up and the way they're supposed to be, they end up falling flat on their face. And that could be one of those games. Green Bay going into it, they've won 6 of the last 7 against the Bears. The Sunday night game, which was flexed, it was announced 2 weeks ago, I believe, that it was flexed to this matchup. Buffalo at Pittsburgh, very interesting matchup. Buffalo with 9 wins, Pittsburgh with 8. Those two are duking it out for positioning in the wild card spots, I believe. Buffalo obviously has the 5th spot. Pittsburgh has the 6th. Pittsburgh has no shot at the division, by the way, since Baltimore also won this past Thursday against the Jets. Not much of a game if you even tried to watch it. Sorry if you tried, but I steered clear of that game. I knew what the outcome was going to be. Buffalo does have a shot at their division though at 9-4. New England was 10-3, I believe, and yes, New England is only 10-3, so they don't have the division wrapped up quite yet because of Buffalo. This could be a good one. Houston at Tennessee. They're both 8-5, duking it out for the AFC South. Rams at Cowboys. That one, I think, is going to be bad. And it's not because of the Cowboys. I think it's because the Rams, sure, the Rams are looking good now. They're looking like the team that went to the Super Bowl last year. They could make some noise down the stretch because I think they're also playing the Niners next week in San Francisco. Or Santa Clara is technically where the stadium is, but San Francisco nonetheless. And I think the last game of the season, they're playing the Cardinals. So if the Rams win out, they certainly are in a good position to get a playoff spot. But as it looks right now, the way the NFC is stacked, the last team with a wild card spot at number 6 is the Minnesota Vikings. They have 9 wins, 9-4. So the Rams, even if they win out, they need Minnesota to lose at least one game. So Rams are hoping for their supposed rivals in LA, the Chargers, the other LA team, to beat the Vikings at home. Not that I think it's going to happen, but we've seen crazier things this season. But Rams at Cowboys, I don't think it's going to be that great of a game, even though it's lining up to be. But I think that game's just going to fall flat. One of these teams is not going to play the way they're supposed to play, the way that they are expected to play. And yeah, it's lining up to be the game of the afternoon, but I don't see it. I really don't see it. Haven't talked about the NBA or the NHL in a while, and there's a reason for that. With the NBA, it's mainly because I can tell when I watch an NBA game nowadays, when it's either October, November, even going towards Christmas time, which that's when I really start to pick up and watch more basketball, is Christmas Day, when you got a full slate of games happening, and I think they have 5 this year on Christmas Day. When you watch those games at this time of year, you can tell players don't care. They really don't. They don't play the way they're supposed to. You're making that kind of dough, and you're not playing up to what they expect you to do. And I understand the season is long. It's grinding. You have some back-to-back days in there mixed in with your 82-game season. But I'm not going to go into a tangent about you owe it to the fans, you owe it to your paying clientele, but especially if you're sitting at home and you're watching, and you're like, wait a minute, why isn't what's his name playing? And then they say during the broadcast, it's like, oh, it's either for some kind of a bruise or contusion, which is fancy for saying bruise. Then that's where you just kind of tune out, and that's what the viewing public is doing. They're tuning out. They see what the ruse is. They've seen it for better part of a decade at least. It's been going on for a while. And then with the stuff in China happening before the season started, that's when things just went downhill for the NBA. So they're suffering, rightfully so, in my opinion. And I alluded to that in a few episodes when that was becoming a hot topic with China and the NBA. I alluded to it then. I said the NBA is going to suffer for this. They're not going to come away winning at all from this. It was going to be bad, and that's part of it with China. And the viewing public knows what the ruse is. They know that these players they don't care. Pardon me as I drink my coffee. But looking at the standings real quick, just to kind of thumb through who are the elite teams right now. The Eastern Conference, clearly Milwaukee's at the top, 24-3. You got Philadelphia at number 2. Those two are playing each other on Christmas Day. That's a good game to watch. If you choose to watch, not saying it's going to be worthwhile because it's the NBA. Like I said, it might not be a great game, but it's a good matchup nonetheless. Miami's at number 3, Boston 4, Toronto 5, and you got Indiana at 6, and then a hodgepodge of garbage after that. Teams that are just clawing at 500. But top 6 is pretty solid in the East. It's very evenly stacked. Now, the Western Conference, this kind of surprises me a little bit. I expected it to be a little more, I guess you could say, competitive. But nonetheless, I mean, even when it goes from a team that is above 500 to the teams below 500. When you look and see who's got the last two spots in the playoffs right now in the NBA and the Western Conference, you're going to be shocked. Number 7 is Sacramento. The Kings are number 7. And the Phoenix Suns are number 8 in the West, followed by Oklahoma, Minnesota, San Antonio, Portland. Now, that's kind of surprising, seeing the Trailblazers that far down. Also, Golden State is dead last in the West, but we all know why. Klay Thompson, we knew going into the season with the torn ACL, wasn't going to play pretty much the entire year. Steph Curry's also been out for a while, and Draymond Green's been banged up. So it's not as stacked as it used to be there in Golden State. But looking at how that is going to shape out in the Western Conference, it'll thin itself out a little bit going forward, I would imagine. But at the top, you got the Lakers and the Clippers. Is anybody really shocked? Nobody's really shocked about that, are you? I'm a Laker fan, and I'm not shocked at all. I mean, Anthony Davis, you get a guy like that, and everything else just kind of comes together. One quick thing I will say about the Lakers, though, is that I really haven't watched a game. Like I said, I'm a huge Laker fan. So I haven't really watched a game, paid attention to it. But seeing as how they're winning games, they're doing it in a way that I've always expected them to. You got to play elite defense. And they're one of the better defensive teams in the league, the way it's shaping out. The NHL's had a buttload of coaching changes recently. I'm not going to get into all that right now, but it's probably a good thing the way some of these teams have been playing. I know New Jersey fired their head coach. Toronto also fired their head coach. Just going through the other teams here in the East. I think that was it there. In the West, though, I think there were more firings. So we had San Jose just recently fired their head coach. Not Vegas, no. Calgary's head coach, he resigned due to uttering a racial slur to a player. How many years ago? Don't remember now, but that was the reason why they don't have their head coach going. That Bill Peters was his name. Going into the season, that's why he's not there anymore. Also, Dallas fired their head coach for some unknown reason that wasn't disclosed at the time, but it was apparently something he either said to somebody that he shouldn't have said, or he did something, whatever the case may be, he was gone. And they're right there in the playoff race as it stands right now at the NHL. But, yeah, we're looking at Eastern Conference. Who is at the top? Let me get out of the wild card here. Washington, 53 points. Boston Islanders at number 3. It's a little surprising. I thought not having the normal Vezina Trophy contending goaltender, Robin Lehner, that they were going to suffer just a little bit, but I guess not. Defense wins championships. I'm not saying the Islanders are going to win a championship, by the way, but they are a very good defensive team. Carolina at 4, Pittsburgh 5, Philly 6, Buffalo's in the playoffs as of right now at number 7 with the Rangers, Canadiens, and Maple Leafs tied for the last spot. And then Tampa Bay's way down there. That's a little shocking. And then the other bottom feeders in the East. And on the West, defending Cup champs, the Blues are in top in the West. Colorado I had representing the Western Conference. If you want to check out NHL preview, just kind of give a quick little 401. If you're more behind than I am in the NHL season, you can go to westsportsguy.com. Always use the hashtag #OneOnOneWest. Avalanche at 2, Dallas 3, Arizona 4. It's not surprising with Arizona. I mean, you trade for Phil Kessel, you got to be competitive now. Winnipeg, Edmonton at 6. All right. Calgary's still there. Vegas at 8. I mean, San Jose and Nashville being as low as they are in the West, that's another shocker. Did not see that coming. That's good. We got a little bit of life now in the NHL. So teams that weren't expected to contend this year are contending right now. So that's good. Very good. So in short, the MLB Winter Meetings went off without a hitch, really. They actually exceeded the expectations when we were thinking not just the big names, but obviously other guys were signing contracts as well. I think it was before the winter meetings. Mike Moustakas signed his deal with the Reds. Zach Wheeler signed his deal with the Philadelphia Phillies. So going into the meetings, we thought that a lot was going to happen, and a lot did. 3 of the big free agents signed. They have new homes now. I didn't watch the live presser of Anthony Rendon. I will watch it at some point today to see how welcoming, and even if there's like some little tidbits of how everything came about with him signing with the Angels and how that started to come to fruition during the winter meetings. That'll be interesting to see if that was discussed, but I'll watch that a little bit later today, maybe tomorrow, but I will watch it at some point. Garrett Cole signing with the Yankees. Yankee fans got to be happy. You got to be happy. I mean, the days of George Steinbrenner, it looked like they were going to be over for a while there. Not to say that the Yankees still weren't competitive. They were still a very competitive team. But again, if you haven't been to a World Series in a full decade, and that's the first time since before the 1920s that the New York Yankees had not even been to a World Series, you knew something was going to change. And of course, the Steinbrenner family, Hal Steinbrenner is the man in charge right now. I think the other son is Hank. Hank is a more brewish kind of resemblance of George, but Hal's more of the business behind the scenes type. One of the other of George's kids, Hal and Hank. I'm pretty sure he's got some other kids too, but sorry to muddy the waters there with children of George Steinbrenner. But again, Hal was the big name in the ownership group that gave the okay to dump that kind of money at Garrett Cole. And it worked. It worked. It absolutely did. And there's no rhyme or reason, no way around that. That's why he went to the Yankees. They paid him exactly what he thought he was going to get paid. And yeah, he got it. He's the first $300 million pitcher. I shouldn't say the first because it was Clayton Kershaw, actually, who re-signed with the Dodgers a few years back. But Garrett Cole, as a straight-up free agent, first time a pitcher's ever gotten that kind of jack. And then before that, it was Steven Strasburg, who got the bigger contract, other than David Price, who had the largest free agent pitcher contract in baseball history. Now, Strasburg, then it became Garrett Cole the next day. So it was a competition, you could say, between the two pitchers, even though they're represented by the same agent, which, again, this also shows the power structure of Scott Boras, where 3 of his clients get a minimum $245 million contract. Minimum. That's what Strasburg and Rendon got. Each got 7 years, $245 million, and Garrett Cole got his $324 million for 9 years with an opt-out after 5. It's kind of sad, but again, that is how baseball is working nowadays. Scott Boras and everybody else. I'll wrap it up here with a quick reminder to subscribe and hit that bell. Use that hashtag #OneOnOneWes. Until then, I will see you next time.